The death of King James IV of Scotland at the Battle of Flodden in 1513 was a significant and tragic event in Scottish history. The battle, which took place on September 9, 1513, was one of the largest and bloodiest conflicts of the period, resulting in a catastrophic defeat for the Scots at the hands of the English forces led by Thomas Howard, Earl of Surrey. James IV's body was left on the battlefield after the fighting had subsided. The aftermath of the battle was chaotic and grim. The Scottish losses were heavy, and the battlefield was strewn with the dead and wounded. James IV, being a prominent figure, was eventually identified among the casualties. His body, however, was not immediately recognized or recovered due to the confusion and the state of the battlefield. After the battle, efforts were made to collect and identify the remains of the fallen soldiers, including those of James IV. The process was complicated by the fact that many of the corpses were disfigured or unrecognizable. In the case of James IV, his body was eventually identified, though the precise details of how this was accomplished are not fully documented. His corpse was initially found among the dead and, as was customary, was subjected to post-mortem examination to confirm his identity. The body of James IV was subsequently taken to Berwick-upon-Tweed, a town in northern England. There, the remains were further examined and, according to historical accounts, were embalmed. The embalming was likely performed to preserve the body for transport. James IV's body was then moved to the English city of Newcastle, where it was placed on display. The display of a defeated king's body was intended both to assert English dominance and to serve as a grim symbol of the consequences of his defeat. Eventually, the remains of James IV were sent back to Scotland. They were interred in the Church of St. Michael in the town of Stirling, a place of significant importance to the Scottish monarchy. His burial was accompanied by considerable ceremony, reflecting the respect and reverence his subjects had for their fallen king, despite the loss and the circumstances of his death. The death of James IV and the subsequent handling of his body marked a somber chapter in Scottish history, reflecting the brutal realities of medieval warfare and the high stakes of royal conflict. The aftermath of Flodden not only underscored the personal tragedy of James IV's death, but also had profound political and social repercussions for Scotland.